Smarter
this
than
is not the United States' war. This war is not being waged on behalf of American national security objectives to make the United States safer or richer.
My own feeling is no one should have to die for a foreign country. Our government's job is not to look out for Iran or for Israel. It's to look out for us.
Donald Trump and his administration are behaving like a war-driven government. There is no clear strategy, no transparent objective, yet they are ready to use firepower first. What is unfolding in the Middle East is not cautious self-defense. It is a chain of rushed, poorly controlled, and high-risk escalation decisions. In just a matter of days, the conflict between the US, Israel, and Iran has gone far beyond a limited campaign. The US Embassy in Jerusalem announced that it does not have the capacity to evacuate American citizens. Thousands of Americans in Israel and Gulf countries have been advised to find their own way out. As Iran targets infrastructure and commercial air routes face threats, that advice sounds more like abandonment than protection. The United States, and the country that spends billions of dollars on military and diplomatic presence in the region, cannot guarantee the evacuation of its own citizens. This is not the image of a superpower in control. This is the image of an administration reacting slowly and operating without preparation. But the biggest question still hangs in the air. What is the real objective of this campaign? The Trump administration has offered multiple explanations, sometimes directly contradicting each other.
Our objective is to defend the American people and would soon have had missiles capable of reaching our beautiful America.
This is not a so-called regime change war, but the regime sure did change.
The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles.
He wanted to make sure that Iran could never have a nuclear.
When the objective is unclear, no one knows where the endpoint lies. And when there is no defined endpoint, the risk of a prolonged war becomes obvious. Notably, the Trump administration's own defense strategy documents once pledged to avoid interventionism, avoid endless wars, and avoid regime change. Yet current reality shows the U.S. directly participating in a military campaign alongside Israel, with public statements suggesting that the Iranian people should change their government. In the Senate, questioning exposed this confusion. When asked whether this campaign constitutes interventionism, defense officials did not provide a clear answer. When asked about specific objectives, they said the president would decide when the time comes.
It's obviously we're serving our own interests.
Interventionism, and how about the endless war part?
Well, I don't think is there
a clear goal that we will know when this is over?
Well, the president's going to decide exactly how we do it. The military campaigns have clearly defined
Okay, and the regime change part, remind me about that. The president, of course, has called it regime change. Do you disagree with him?
No, I think the president has said that this is an opportunity for the people of Iran to rise up and overthrow their oppressors. But as he indicated, the Venezuela model could be one the other day.
Does that sound like regime change?
I think the goals of the military, obviously, allowing the Iranian people to take this matter into their own hands is one of the options here, but the American military campaign is got more
so that's great.
goals,
so the Trump administration first says it's going to be America first, then puts out a national defense strategy, and then goes to war alongside Israel illegally, unconstitutionally. And that is now the policy of the Trump administration. Say one thing in a campaign, write it down on paper, and then go do whatever the hell you want.
The time
that
of the
wrong.
senator.
This is not how a democracy conducts war. Congress has oversight authority, and the public has the right to know why their sons and daughters may be sent into combat. As the Middle East restructures, the global economy shakes. Russia, already under economic pressure from war and sanctions, benefits from rising oil prices. Every increase per barrel becomes additional revenue for Moscow. This paradox raises a critical question. Is Washington unintentionally giving a geopolitical advantage to its rival? When a war begins without fully calculating the chain of economic consequences, those consequences often circle back to impact the country that launched it. But perhaps the greatest threat to the Trump administration does not come from Tehran. It comes from its own voters. Within the MAGA movement, dissenting voices are emerging. They ask, is this America's war? They repeat the America First slogan and wonder why American soldiers' lives are being risked for a regional conflict. This fracture is not loud like street protests, but it simmers in conservative media spaces and could become real political pressure if the war drags on. Former Ambassador Dennis Ross, who has served under multiple administrations and participated in numerous Middle East negotiations, warned that war objectives must be clearly defined before military force is used. He stated that if an administration defines its goals only after a campaign ends, it can declare victory. But that does not guarantee the original objectives were achieved or that the cost was justified. A mature political system cannot rely on a strategy of defining success after the fact. In this context, criticism is not coming only from Democrats. Even within the pro-Trump movement, dissatisfaction is gradually surfacing. Those who supported him because he promised to pull the US out of Middle East wars are now asking, why are we returning to the very place we once sought to leave? They do not deny the threat from Iran, but they question the necessity of a campaign that risks expansion and prolongation. They see rising gas prices, volatile markets, reports of fallen soldiers, and they do not see a direct clear benefit for the US. This fracture is politically dangerous. Trump's core base was not built on interventionist foreign policy, but on economic nationalism and a commitment to prioritizing domestic interests. When war begins affecting daily life, from fuel prices to defense spending, the question of America first stops being a slogan and becomes a real-world test. If the administration cannot convincingly explain how this war makes the US safer or more prosperous, support may erode over time. Meanwhile, the military strategy on the ground carries difficult-to-control escalation risks. Iran is not a country that can be completely isolated. It has proxy networks stretching from Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq to Yemen. Each flashpoint can become a secondary front. An attack on a US base in Iraq could trigger a chain reaction. An attack on commercial shipping in the Persian Gulf could draw deeper involvement from other major powers. Modern war does not occur in a vacuum. It spreads through alliances, energy supply chains, and global financial markets. The Trump administration has hinted at supporting rebel groups or Kurdish forces to apply internal pressure on Iran, but recent history shows that Washington's relationships with proxy forces are not always durable. Kurdish forces were key allies in counterterrorism efforts, yet they have also felt abandoned when strategic interests shifted. If Washington once again relies on proxy strategies without long-term commitments, US credibility in the region will continue to erode, and when credibility declines, the ability to build sustainable alliances declines with it. Another issue rarely discussed but critically important is post-war strategy. Suppose airstrikes significantly weaken Iran's military capacity. Suppose key figures in the power structure are removed. What happens next? Who controls nuclear facilities? Who ensures weapons stockpiles do not fall into extremist hands? Who negotiates a ceasefire? If the answer is simply, we will consider it when the time comes, that is not a strategy. Yeah, it is postponing decisions. If strikes eliminate the very figures who might later participate in negotiations, the power vacuum could be filled by harder line actors less willing to compromise. In that case, the goal of weakening the regime could unintentionally strengthen its most extreme factions. At home, financial pressure cannot be ignored. War consumes enormous resources, from deploying aircraft carriers and missile defense systems to logistics costs and allied support. All of it is paid through a federal budget that is already strained. Amid debates over budget deficits and social spending, expanding a military campaign abroad will become a political flashpoint. Lawmakers who once supported cutting public spending may have to explain why tens of billions of dollars are being allocated to a conflict whose objectives remain undefined.